Right, we're here on Ian and Hazel Telford's farm in Fintona today. Just going to take a wee look around and see what's going on the farm day to day. I'd like to introduce you to Hazel and well, how has the farm sort of started with yourself and Ian, and how has it progressed over the years, and sort of what time span are we talking about? And
well, Ian has been milking here probably about 8 years before we were married, and in the parlour he got a 32-point pneumatic parlour and was milking through that. Started off with boxes of heifers that he bought, and wasn't a simple operation to start with either. We decided then to go for the robots because it gives more potential to your cows individually. And then when we got married and that, I came home to the farm, and together we've just progressed now up to this stage. Overall, like we've just kept breeding and breeding. We use the genus RMS at the moment.
yes.
And that there now is very helpful in the breeding.
And how many cows would you have started off 8 years ago, and what number have you got up to, and what was the challenges?
At the start, probably there was about 100 cows going through the parlour at the time, and then everything was done to sex segments, so it just kept growing and growing from that there. And today we're sitting at 175 going through the robots. So yeah, no, it's growing well.
Perfect. And sort of, what was the stages of, like you got up to a number in the parlour, what was sort of the maximum number, and then how did that change your thinking?
Yeah, in the parlour, probably our maximum we were milking was about 270, and time was increasing in the parlour was maybe 3.5 hours a time going through the parlour, so 7 hours of your day gone.
Yes.
And then to try and fit everything else in around it, like you weren't just getting enough time probably to spend with young stuff and things like that there, or the men at the time with silage and grass. So probably now less is more.
Yes.
We get gaining more probably out of our cows now, and having a bit more time for just get your silage and not there as you want it.
Yes.
But there's a wee bit more time for the men when they're out in the field.
Yeah. From coming from the parlour system to the robot system, how many staff would you have had, and how has that changed, and how has the workload changed?
Yeah, in the parlour there would have been myself and Ian, and then there was 2 full-timers, and then at the weekend we had 2 milkers as well. Currently now just myself and Ian, and then full-time Christopher's here, and we have another man comes in the mornings, 4 mornings a week, and he helps out in the parlour and with the calf rearing.
Yes.
So definitely the units has decreased dramatically. Yeah.
And do you find it, I suppose, easier to get people to do work now in the new system compared to the older system, or has anything changed there?
Definitely, it's probably a nicer environment. You're out working with the cows, that you're not in the parlour 3 people trying working under pressure. The cows, like 32 in the parlour at a time, it's busy. Like
yes.
There's a lot of pressure there, but look, it's a nicer probably environment out here with the cows.
And what sort of challenges did you have when you were employing so many, and what sort of, I take it that's what took you down the route of the robotics?
Yeah, that definitely was one element. Like, it's not easy getting milkers, especially at weekends, but in fairness we were lucky with what we had, and things are just changing. People don't want to be standing in a parlour for 3.5 hours at a time.
Yes.
So they don't, and you can't blame them either. I suppose this is a nicer way of doing it. You're still working with your cows, you're still milking and not there, but it's just a different way and a different routine.
And would you find that you know your cows more now or less? Because a lot of times that people say, well, I'm touching the cow in the parlour.
Yeah.
How has that evolved for you?
Yes, definitely you would have noticed that there at the start, but your cows is quieter because you're probably in their environment more so now.
Yes.
Before you were just going in and getting them out and taking them into the parlour, but now when you're in their environment, you get to spend time with them as well.
Yeah. And do you find that a nicer?
Definitely that's
one of the
nicer.
pluses.
It's probably not as stressful for both people involved. Like.
Yeah. You would have seen your herd
Definitely you see it can, and even for to bring a heifer into that environment, the parlour, it is that wee bit more built up. At least in the here, she's still within the shed and she's within the other cows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not isolated as much.
And
Well, probably when we were putting in the parlour, Robots was just maybe a thing that was being talked about and people didn't know as much as they do now. And probably more to get the full potential out of our cows. We thought maybe we'd gain more. 3 times a day milking is a lot of extra work, whereas a robot, well, should be there 24/7 doing it for you. Yes, there is extra work with new heifers not put into the robots, but it's different times compared to you're not just always watching the clock of milking time. You can go at a time that nearly suits you better, or a quieter time on the robot to work with those cows that you need to collect. It's sort of mixed at the minute. Mostly the heifers is in this side.
Yep. Yeah.
That's where they're going in, you know, in the calf. The training.
separation.
Yes, out
And
the back.
gates is more set up for the training on that side.
Yes, yep.
97.
Yeah, just 97 heifers on there at the
Nice.
minute.
How have you found training heifers?
Yeah, overall, they're pretty good. We're happy enough to get them in maybe the first couple of times. Some might go after the first time and get through themselves, or some might take a fortnight, just depends on their routine. But they take to the robots pretty well, say easier than they do in the parlour.
Yes.
And most of the shed was already here, wasn't it?
Yeah, we added on 3.
3 beds.
Well, sentence conversation. Whenever we came out at the start, we were trying to see where to put the robots best and the lowest cost and ideal situation for the cow. And we had the robots in quite a few different
Yeah.
places, and we were trying out, looking at different ways of doing it. And then we went then to a farm not too far away from here, and they'd seen the way it was set up and the way it worked, the separation and all, and then we came up with this idea here. And look, it was to make everybody,
Yeah.
the cow's number one, and then it's again down to finances and then cow flow, and that's what we really focused on, and that was the thing we had to get right first.
Yeah.
And with adding on the extension at the end, the 3 bays, it still allowed us to milk through the parlour whilst it was all going on.
On the build. Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you change anything on the design? Or would you, if you were doing it again, same again? Or?
Yeah, we probably would leave it the same. If we did go through a right few plans to get it, or it's like everything, you probably make a few changes, but overall we're happy with the setup. Yeah.
No, I was very happy now, and the amount of effort and the level of finish that Ian and Hazel have put into it is a testament to themselves and how well it's working. And kind of, what's your breeds on the farm at present, and what's your future breeding plans?
We're probably 90% Holstein at the moment. We started, there was probably a few Friesians in there, but we've run very much down the Holstein line. There's a few Fleckfeet cross in there as well. We did try that, but they're crossed back to the Holstein. Probably for milk production, we try and keep going back to Holstein now.
Yes.
So we will, yeah.
And what's the benefits in the Holstein that you're finding?
Probably Holstein is a milkier cow just overall.
Yes.
Fleckfeet would just give as much milk as well. It'll probably dry off that wee bit quicker
Yes.
once they're back in calf.
And how do you find butterfats and proteins?
Yeah, definitely you would see Fleckfeet probably would be a wee bit maybe better in your butterfat, but overall your cows giving you, your Holstein cows giving you more litres.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is your ideal cow now at the minute, and what would you like her to look like?
Yeah, definitely your breeding now changes. You get so much information in front of you all the time on the screen that you can, if there's a cow just not right, you say, right, well, there's not much point having a heifer out of that there, so we'll maybe go for a beef stock. But then it's hard to just turn a cow down to that there. She could still be a good enough milker, but just a wee bit slower.
Yeah. And have you found the best cows are the cows I suppose you don't see, but you know everything that's going on?
Yeah. There's cows some days that you never have to pass much remarks on. There's cow maybe never has to be collected, but it could be the simplest thing as a sore foot, and you know that day you have to collect her and there's something wrong. And then there's other cows that just gets further back in the lactation and gets a wee bit lazy, I suppose, and has to be collected.
Yes. And
Yeah.
how have you found managing the nutrition side of things, and has there been an evolution on the farm as far as that goes, and what way were you doing it before?
Yeah, well, they get fed through the feeder wagon for the feed fence, and then they're getting the nuts through the parlour, the robots as well. Overall, they're all fed on the one ration from the feeder wagon, and then in the robots it's tweaked to their litres and days and milk.
Yes.
Which I'd say gives them more potential. At least everybody's still getting their fair share when they're in the robot.
I suppose they're working for everything that they're getting.
Yeah.
Have you found the efficiency of feed better utilised now on the farm, and how has that changed?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just recently David was out and he was saying that he can see a good difference now. It's getting more efficient.
Yes.
It's just probably taking us that year.
Production would you doing per cow per year now?
Probably before in the parlour we did do a wee bit of milk recording, but we probably just didn't keep as tight a accurate eye on it. But now in the robots with the information, it's roughly just over 10,000 litres per cow.
Yes.
In the production year.
Yeah. Well, that's very good. Very impressive.
Definitely has increased now well with it, but hopefully there's still room for improvement.
Well, we'll try.
I think it was one day we hit 40.1 or 2. Yeah.
Good going. Across 150 cows.
Yeah, in the first year, yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the maximum that you've had on the robots?
The maximum was in the startup day at 183.
And how did you find startup?
Startup was a wee bit stressful now. It was rough, definitely was rough, but we maybe took on too many cows onto the robots at the time. But it was the only way we learned, and it threw us in at the deep end, and definitely from that there we learned the hard way that having too much on them wasn't the best thing.
Yeah.
And sort of, how long did it take before things started to settle down and you sort of get into your stride with the whole new system?
I would say it probably took us longer than the cows to adapt. I'd say it was probably about 3 months for ourselves, but we were fit to ease away each time. In the first 6 months, we still would have collected 3 times a day, but after that there we started to come back to 2 times a day, and the cows was definitely going more so themselves. Once they've calved then and had their first cycle in the robots, definitely a big change now going in fresh calf.
Yeah. And do you find that they're just starting off where they left off?
Pretty much, yeah. Walking down to the robot and that's it.
Yeah. And sort of, what's the biggest changes that you've found in the 2 different systems, from parlour to robots, and what's your positives and what's your sort of negatives to both systems?
You have so much information on your robots. It tells you so much more about your cows. If you use that wisely, you definitely could get a great herd of cows built up. With that there, we didn't have as much information in the parlour. Overall, the fertility and the feet of our cows has improved with the foot baths going in, and the fertility, there's less straws now being used on our cows. The condition of the cows is probably improved as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they look very uniform and they're shining and looking well and performing well. What's your next 18 months plan? And what are you trying to tweak and improve?
Probably in the next 18 months would probably maybe go through our cows again and see the best milkers, the quickest milk speed there that is, if we could prove that we can maybe get more cows onto your robots or try and make the most potential out of your cow.
Yeah, take more even from less and with less.
Yeah, like ideally we would just like to have the 3 robots going, but at the moment that just isn't possible with the amount of numbers calving in. But you have to give the fresh calvers as much time as possible.
And with the fresh calvers, how do you find that that's made a difference compared to the fresh calvers being in the parlour beforehand? What's the sort of...
Yeah, there's definitely less stress on them going in, and at least the robot then feeds them to their potential to try and get them built up in their leaders. The cows get glycol up to 100 days after their calve to get them built up again and get them back in calve. And at least with the robot, each cow, it shows you if there's a problem, well, you can get sorted before it goes on too long. The first week was very tough trying to get them pushed through, but no, they did. Some took really well to it, and some just probably the older cows was a wee bit harder to get changed over.
And now you have the flip of that.
Yeah.
Now, check the parlour whenever they become lower yielding, and how are the cows taking that, and how are they settling back into the parlour?
Definitely, not as happy now going back to the parlour, so they're not, but they still run to get in, but you just see them, they're just not as content maybe.
Yeah. And would you see them taking a look down, let me back?
Oh, I would definitely, yeah.
No, we've heard that there in a few different farms that they're a wee bit discontent because
Definitely, yeah.
they're not in their environment and their natural natural rhythm.
Yeah, like if you were going there to milk up to 5 times a day and then to be cut off and twice, somebody collecting you and bringing you to the parlour, it's just a new routine again.
Yeah. And how have you seen the hierarchy of the cows change?
Yeah, definitely now. You'll have the odd one that is standing at the robot and will wait for their turn, and then there's some just balls in past and knows I'm going.
Yeah.
Definitely is that there. But you see the greedy ones come through and through trying to get their extra wee bit of meal.
Yeah. And what's your daily routine now, and what hours would you have been doing in the parlour beforehand, sort of from time morning to night, and what hours would you be doing now, and what tasks what's your general run-of-the-mill tasks?
Yeah, when we were in the parlour, we would have been starting about 6 o'clock, so we weren't getting out of the parlour usually probably 9 or half 9, and then taking into the rest of the day, feeding calves, and going around the rest of the young stock. At least now, starting mornings at 6, come out to your robot, start gathering your cows, and then go to your parlour. And then once the cows is being fed through the wagon, that's when they're bedded. We're usually up at the feed tent, which leaves it easier.
Yes.
And everybody goes on about their own jobs, and like the changes now, you're usually in the house taking your breakfast at 9, 10 o'clock.
Yes.
The workload is probably more balanced out now, that it's just not as much stress in the mornings. Different times of the year, yes it is. Like at the moment when you're calving heifers, you're just not going to be in as quick, but you have to take that bit of extra time with them.
Yeah. And have you found your hours changed now whenever you had the parlour turned off there for a period of time, and was it hard getting back into the routine?
Definitely, yes, because we would have started milking in the evenings there about 5 o'clock, and like you're sometimes maybe in the winter going into the parlour in the dark and coming back out in the dark, but at least now you have all your work done on these dark evenings and you could get in.
Yes.
But no, overall our hours would be reduced. It gives you more time to do other things during the day that probably before was getting neglected.
Yes.
So what is?
Such like calves and field work, or?
Calves, field work, and foot bath and dry cows, and just different elements, and probably we would have got more time now with our dry cows and keep it tighter eye in them.
Yes. And have you found that there's helped overall?
Overall, yeah, definitely. Yeah, giving them that wee bit of extra time, foot bathing and working with them, it is paying off when the calf back in.
Yes.
So it is, yeah.
Your cows are a lot fitter and
definitely a lot fitter, and probably maybe come back to their milk quicker.
Yes.
They're getting dried off that wee bit earlier maybe than we did in the parlour, because it's all the numbers is through that
yes.
that you can get them all dried off through the robot and with Genus. That's how we would get our cows to the dates to get dried off.
Well, what all have you on the parlour? She's 32 point swing over, is she?
32 points, 16 each side.
Yes.
So she is, yeah.
And what all had you on that?
There's cluster flush, EAD ties as well, yeah.
Feed to you?
Feed to you, yeah. So we did.
So you had a...
Oh yeah, no, she definitely was a good parlour and still is today. So she is, can never get rid of it really.
What's sort of your task with the robots in the mornings and the evenings?
Yeah, usually go down and go through the collect cows or maybe any failed cows and check the other health report and see if there's anybody there flagged up that needs to be checked. If there's something there that needs to be checked, so I can get your collar number and check the cow's udder, and then start collecting the cows. Yeah. Look, overall, usually it's not too bad. We really can't complain. Probably the most you would have maybe 10 to collect.
Yeah.
So it is.
And how much free time would you have then?
At the moment, we're averaging about 19% free time.
Yeah, and you find that there's a good correlation between that and the amount of cows that you have to collect?
Yeah, definitely. The tighter she's running on time, the more you have to collect.
Yeah. And how do you find collecting cows? Is it them cows that need to be seen, or are you doing it because they're lazy?
They probably get lazy, yeah, as they maybe go further back in their lactation and the meal's being taken off them in the robot, so they maybe don't want to get up and go. Maybe a sore foot, or maybe somebody having a heat. Just could be a number of things, but you just try and keep them into a routine.
Yeah. And what would your daily task be then on the actual robot itself, morning and evening?
Yeah, the filters change twice a day, morning and evening. When we're going out to collect the cows in the evening, we change as well. And clean, just give her a complete wash down, morning and night, twice a day, to keep her going as efficient as she can. If there's anything extra has to be done, like liners changed, lasers cleaned.
Yes.
And making sure all the chemicals is topped up.
Yes. And how often would you do that? Every day or once a week for the chemicals?
Chemicals check once a week, yeah.
Yeah.
So it is. The rest is a daily, pretty much routine. From day one we were taught that.
How have you found your Lely journey and the people that you've sort of encountered along the way? And
yeah, pretty much from day one it was Dean yourself, you came out and kind of presented us with a couple of ideas that we could have done. Maybe we were a wee bit slow in trying to do the transition ourselves, but once we got going, overall it was loads of help. People definitely couldn't give you enough information. If we wanted a question any time, day or night, somebody was always fit to answer it. We were taking around a couple of farms to give them definitely that their help. It's very hard to visualise sometimes something on paper until you see it. And when you get out to the different farms, it give you an eye opener of what could be happening. Overall, with our service and our whole setup and the whole startup, we were very pleased now. Great support from first hour probably when the robots went in, and even today the backup's brilliant.
Breakdowns or issues with the robots, or?
No, we've been very lucky. Any issue was very, very small at the start, and even today we've been very lucky to stay a year on. We've never had a major breakdown.
Yeah. And how have you found the engineers and the farm management support guys that have come onto the farm?
Yeah, definitely. Servicemen's great, yeah. Anything at all, they nearly know how to tell you over the phone. If they don't have to come out, they won't. They'll tell you over the phone how to get it sorted out yourself. With the yards feed, it's David, he has come out and he's working alongside Farm Gate and Lily, and he definitely has helped us with their nutrition.
Yes.
Both he would be sorting out feed tables and that in the robot, plus also what's going on the feed plants.
Yes. You found that a major benefit?
Definitely a great benefit. We did work with Farm Gate when we had the parlour, but then just this wee bit extra work now in the robot.
You have more data as opposed to the work.
Yeah, more information, more figures.
And this about robots before you started looking at them, and how did you find, what was your experience compared to what you thought?
Yeah, probably everybody's very naive with this robot that you're going to put in and it's going to do everything for you. It's definitely not that. You have to be prepared to work at it. Really, I generally didn't know very much, or neither did Ian when we started. And by the time you watched a few videos and went to maybe an open day and seen around you, that's when you started to visualise what it could do. Like it's a different way of milking, but you still need to work at it.
Yeah. And how have you found using the computer and doing to work on the robots, see if anything needs fixed or anything. How have you found that? And I suppose, how has your experience been
Yeah.
learning that?
Yeah, with the computer, yeah, Jacob, he came down at the start and talked us through and by putting on information, as much information as you could, and it will benefit you, and you can see that now as you start to calve in again, that it has benefited as much information as you could get on. In terms of fixing the robot, the three of us was away at a day at the Lily Centre, and we all got to watch on different practical things that you could do if your robot broke down.
Yeah.
Definitely it was worthwhile. A few things, yes, we've had to do, but sure, that's the way you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of guys there that would be afraid of technology, and software and computers scare them a wee bit.
Yeah, definitely.
What was your thoughts on that, and what was your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I was probably left more to the computer side, and the boys was more into the actual robot part.
Yes.
Which worked out fair enough. Everybody has their part to play, but here the computer's what you use probably the most every day. It's telling you the most information, and you're working off that every day.
Yes.
To see what's going right and what could be probably improved. But overall, anything that you've had to fix in the robots ourselves, it has been a success.
Yeah. And using that information, and is it easy to use the software?
Yeah, overall it's easy to use. Yeah. Here there's reports for everything that you could probably think of.
Yeah.